Welcome back to part 2 of the BFDI tier list. You don't have to have seen part 1, but if you have some free time, feel free to go check it out after this video. To start of this list, we have what I like to call the teacher's pet of BFDI, that being Firey, and to be honest, he was pretty boring in the first season, and in BFB, where he was just a loser follower. However, he really did good in BFDIA, which slowly led into his post-split arc with Leafy. My only issue is that he didn't do much outside of Leafy in post-split, so I want him to be part of another arc soon. Following Firey, we have the kids version, and honestly all he does is complain, usually about his team. He is one of the few Exeters who I don't really care about even after Teapot 11, so he can join the bad characters in D tier. If you have been around for a while, then you may know that I have never really liked Flower that much for many reasons. For example, they need to pull something crazy in BFDIA to explain her sudden shift in personality, as it was random, and realistically, also I absolutely hate how the BFB finale was rigged for her to win, as there was a good chance the votes would have been closer, or Gelatin may have surpassed Flower even. Anyway, she gets the first F tier. Next up we have Foldy, who I genuinely couldn't care less about seeing, as she did nothing in pre-split and in Teapot was the second person out, although I do see potential if she had stayed a bit longer for her to become okay on her team, as I liked Eggy basketball and her at the start of the season. Anyway, wish they had done something with Marker in her story, as it seemed possible, and he was the only one that really cared when she got out, but this is a C tier, just an okay character. Now Fries, even if he was an early boot in Teapot, he was definitely one of the MVPs of BFDIA, especially in the more recent episodes. He is very enjoyable to watch and very realistic. I have always sort of liked his personality more than others, and had his team not been fan favorites in Teapot, he might still be, and he is definitely one of my favorites, and I wouldn't mind if he rejoined in Teapot, and that means we have our first S tier for this episode. Now we move on to another good character, that being Gaty, and to be honest she was fine in BFB, but she really peaked in Teapot when she became friends with 2, which is a side of object shows that really is not seen often if ever, and this definitely made her more popular, and hopefully this popularity is enough to give her a chance on her new team. But other than that, she hasn't really had much time to shine, so I'm only going to put Gaty in a tier, but she has definitely become one of my favorite characters in Teapot. Next up we have the robbed runner-up Gelatin. And yeah, there's a little bias over BFB 30, but ignoring that, Gelatin is just a very silly and fun character, but that is also balanced out by him being chill sometimes. I really loved him in BFDIA 13, and the new Alliance in post-split made me love him even more. Despite BFB already ending, Gelatin is one of the few characters that has always been my favorite, compared to some characters that I have had my opinion on changed. Definitely an S tier. Where will Golf Ball be placed? Probably somewhere high, as she has definitely been changing over time, and that has allowed me to like her a lot in BFD. She was just an annoying nerd that nobody really liked, and she still sort of is in BFDIA, but slightly better. But then she started having relevance in BFB with the 8-ball thing. However, I still didn't like her too much. Then came Teapot, and she started as usual being annoying, but she definitely peaked here after the puffball arc, and when it ended she really became fun to watch for once not being a nerd. Oswell as this, she seems to be having a new arc in Teapot about getting her team to actually like her, and if done right she will definitely be very good. Anyway, a tier. And then we have Grassy, who went from being a silly nobody to a very fun character in Teapot, and yes, this Teapot thing is recurring, but doesn't matter. I personally really enjoy Grassy being the strong character that has sort of a friendship with Snowball, which has definitely made me like both of them way more than beforehand, and I think making Grassy and Snowball friends was a very good idea for Grassy's characters, and I can't wait to see more of this duo, so I will put Grassy in a tier. And now I want revenge, as we move on to Ice Cube, who is definitely one of the worst characters. Like, I used to see people saying her lines are recycled all the time. That has stopped now, but it lasted for ages and it was annoying. She also pushed away her only form of personality, that being Iance and Book, and it's not like she got better recently, as all she did was slide around a do-nothing, so maybe she can slide her way into F tier. Next up we have Leafy, and yeah, I'm already getting tired of these boring characters. She is basically a worse Firey with no social interaction outside of Firey, who she has had like 2 normal interactions with Firey, and that's about it. Let's be honest, she has potential, but is nothing without Firey. It is as if the writers don't want Leafy to have any other arcs. For example, one missed opportunity was an arc with Eggy at the end of pre-split, but all it took was the word "stole Dream Island" to prevent that. Even in BFDIA she only makes small cameos, and even then those stopped B tier. Okay, if I have to talk about Leafy any longer, I'm gonna delete this whole video. Anyway, moving on to an actually good character, that being Lightning, who was enjoyable I9 NBFB, but like a lot of characters, he really peaked in Teapot, where he actually had a decent dynamic with his team. Also, Lightning's elimination was definitely the best of the season, as he not only convinced Fanny to turn on the pact, but also set the stage for the challenge he can go in a tier. Then we have Lai, who was definitely the main character of the exit, and I haven't seen the voting results, but she is definitely one of the few competitors for the Teapot debut, and to be honest, I would be fine with that sinks alongside Stapy. She is my favorite exiter, as her personality and screen time stands out from the rest, but if we were just going from BFB, then she would probably be in like D tier, as she didn't really do much, but I'm sure if she debuts in Teapot 13, she might even go to an S tier character, as she has lots of character potential, but for now I will put her in a tier Oswell. Following Lai, we have the second member of the new B Alliance, that being Lollipop, who was definitely one of the best parts of post-split. Like, I liked her in pre-split, but I noticed her a lot more after she became friends with Gelatin and Teardrop, as the new 2B Alliance is the best part of post-split, but with BFB ending, I kinda forgotten about her. Maybe it's cause I have not rewatched it, but still Gelatin and Teardrop outshine her in every way, so I will put her in B tier. Next up we have Loser, who was a one-trick pony throughout the whole show, and maybe if went to Teapot I would like him more D tier. Returning to the interesting characters, we have Marker, who was always one of my favorite comedic silly characters. Unlike a lot of people, I liked him back in BFB before Teapot, but that does not mean he didn't cook in Teapot, becoming even better with Death Pact again, and his explosion in fame from being on TV, and find the markers kept him in till now. I'm just said in the more recent episodes he's been a bit irrelevant, since he was in the middle of the Death Pact arc, but anyway, definitely an A tier. Next up we have Match, who has a lot of wasted potential in BFB, which could have saved her character, as in the first 2 seasons I just saw her as Pencil's sidekick, as she was less relevant and always got out earlier. However, after Pencil left, she just became Pencil until she seemed like she was becoming a better person to Bubble, but she got eliminated and then reverted back in the exit. Wasted potential, that's all I will say, so I will put her into C tier, as I do not see her returning to a season. For a few years from now, hopefully she can improve and make use of that potential. Okay, now we move on to Naily, who was doing quite well for herself until Teapot, where her spotlight was stolen by Price Tag, yet Naily was not popular to begin with, so she soon got eliminated very early on, so Kesh kinda became irrelevant to me, and since she probably is not rejoining, and since she has been basically replaced and didn't get to do much, I will put her in B tier. Now, as for Needle, she used to be pretty irrelevant on her old team, in which I might put her in C or D tier. However, both in BFDIA and Teapot, she has had some sort of ongoing story arc, those being the Free Smart thing or the rivalry with Penn, both of which being very interesting, but at the same time both have just started developing, so I'm sure that as we see more of these different arcs, Needle will be better, but for now I will give her B tier. Following her we have Nickel, and what did he do again? I genuinely forgot, a B tier. After that we have Penn, who unlike Needle was actually relevant a bit with his Blocky and Eraser friendship. However, he has not really had any major arcs recently, so just like Needle, their little rivalry in Teapot 12 might bring him up in the future, but I never really liked Penn too much, so C tier. And finally, after a whole episode, we move on to Pencil, who was one of my favorite characters in BFDI and BFDIA. However, me and a lot of others stopped liking her after her personality shift in BFB. However, I personally think she redeemed herself in the exit things, and her Bracelety and David are a great trio, which is something I did not ever expect to say. I think she is on of the debut contenders, and if she joins, it might bring an interesting arc for book. Anyway, she gets an A. Well, that's it for part 2. I'm only 10 subs away, so if you have watched till the end, please subscribe. Anyway, that will be it. CYA next time.